It's time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Kyle Benedict as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives in Yavapai County. And now here's today's Countywide.
Welcome to Countywide. I'm Kyle Benedict. Today we are talking about the 9th Annual Verde Valley Water Festival. It's going to be September 29th at Dead Horse Ranch State Park. We'll give you that date again throughout the show. But here to talk about the Water Festival and the Arizona Project WET is Arizona Project WET Community Coordinator Tara Oaks. She came up from Phoenix, so thank you for making the drive.
No problem. It's beautiful up here. So.
Yeah, no, we love our little community up here. So we're talking about, again, the 9th Annual Water Festival, and we had you guys in last year to talk about this, and it's a really great program. It's a program within the Arizona Project WET. And I guess first off, Tara, can you talk about Arizona Project WET and just give us an overview of what that is?
Sure. Arizona Project WET is a formal yet informal education program focusing on water conservation and water education for the state of Arizona specifically. We work with teachers and with students. So a lot of what we do is we work with the teachers to get them educated about water and the unique water issues that we have here in Arizona, and then they can take those lessons back into their classes and then share that information with their students. Because those students are going to be the future policymakers and decision makers and voters and environmental stewards for the state and the water that we have.
Okay, yeah, and a great website for more information on anything that we're covering today, arizonawet.arizona.edu, arizonawet.arizona.edu, a ton of great information on there, and just looking at the website and everything that you do, and then what's covered in the Water Festival, which we'll get into here shortly, but I was looking at all that information, and I remember learning a fraction of that in school. And the fact that this is all being covered at such a young age, I mean, we're talking about grade schoolers, right?
Right, yeah. This is a 4th grade program. It's a statewide program for 4th grade students, the Water Festivals. And within the Water Festival, we focus on 4 different topics relating to water. So the water cycle, watersheds, groundwater systems, and personal water usage and water conservation. And so getting students up to speed with those things, how water works in the physical environment, and even as students, as children, what they can do to conserve water now, really, leads towards, better stewards in the future and better citizens.
Right, yeah, and so we're talking 4th graders. How many 4th graders are you guys expecting this year?
So at this year's Verde Valley Festival, we're expecting 18 classes from 6 different schools for about 457 students.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, that's just the Verde Valley, but this is a statewide program, so we see thousands of students across the state every year.
Okay, and now we'll kind of get into the specifics on what the students will be learning at the festival, but in terms of the curriculum, does that change? You mentioned festivals are throughout the state. Does the curriculum change from location to location?
So we do tailor the information a little bit depending on where we are throughout the state, because for instance, this is the Verde Valley. The Verde Valley is going to be very different from Nogales. Or from Yuma. So we tailor the site-specific information to what the teachers need. So for the Verde Valley area, we do give them information about, how much of the water in the Verde Valley area does come from groundwater systems and how much is coming from surface water, like from Oak Creek and from the Verde River itself and things like that. So we try to give the teachers as much information as possible that they can then incorporate into their classes.
Now, when is this all this work start with the teachers? How do you guys inform them? And is this something just email, or is it a phone conference, or how does this work with the teachers?
So when we have new teachers sign up for a water festival, we do ask that they come and attend a professional development workshop that also gives them their continuing credit hours that they can use to keep their certification as a teacher. But within that time period, we go over many, many lessons that they do in their classroom before the festival and then after the festival to ensure that the students have a complete base of foundation information coming into the festival itself. But with the Verde Valley, since this is the 9th year, many of the teachers are return teachers. And so we don't require that the returning teachers come and do the professional development every year, but they're always welcome to come back for a refresher.
Okay, so I mean the focus is on the children, and they're the ones really retaining all the information, but really the teachers are getting a lot out of this as well. And then so the goal, I guess, is from this water festival, the teachers are involved with it, and then carry that over and keep that conversation going in the classroom?
Yes. So with Arizona Project Wet, really we want to educate the teachers as much as possible so they have a good foundation to teach their students to build that foundation for them. So it's everything we do. We start with the teachers with professional development and trying to get them up to speed on all these different issues and things like that also.
Okay, and now how did this water festival, just the idea, come about? I mean, it seems like Arizona, water is constantly an issue. You're talking about just the southwestern states in general, but how did this idea of a water festival come about?
Well, it's something that we've been doing for many, many years. Since the year 2000, I believe, was the very first year that we started doing water festivals. And throughout that 14-year period, we've done festivals throughout 28 different communities across the state.
Wow.
So yeah, from very urban areas like the individual cities that make up the greater Phoenix area. We work with Tucson, and then we work with a lot of the smaller communities around the state, from Lake Havasu to Flagstaff, here in the Verde Valley, Suarita.
Wow.
So we're all over the state. And throughout that time, we've reached over 96,000 students. And we're actually going to hit 100,000 students this school year.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing.
Yes.
I mean, how awesome. And then you mentioned you got teachers coming back every year, or at least some of them, so they're constantly being refreshed on what's going on. And then in terms of the curriculum, does that change on a year-to-year basis, or does it stay relatively the same?
So this curriculum itself, the basic lessons and the 4 basic topics stay relatively the same.
Okay.
We do from time to time update the curriculum and sometimes the way that we teach those lessons, because we want to stay current with what the current standards for the state of Arizona and the national education standards are. So we try to stay as in tune with all of those different things as possible, because we know that those are also the things that the teachers need.
Okay, perfect, great. Well, we're going to take our first break. We're sitting down with Tara Oak. She's the community coordinator for Arizona Project Wet. We're talking about the 9th annual Verde Valley Water Festival on September 29th. Good website, arizonawet.arizona.edu. This is Countywide, back in a couple minutes.
Everybody has a dream. Mine was to see the ocean. And with a little help, I made it.
Can we get strawberries?
Okay.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised.
Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
Welcome back to Countywide. I'm Kyle Benedict, sitting down with Tara Oak. She's the community coordinator for Arizona Project WET. We're talking about one of their programs, the Water Festival. On September 9th, the 9th annual Verde Valley Water Festival will be taking place at Dead Horse Ranch State Park. It's going to be hundreds of fourth graders and teachers, and just a great event talking about water and conservation and just all types of things. And a good website, again, with great information. I mean, they have all kinds of stuff on the website, arizonawet.arizona.edu. Great information on there. So in terms of, we touched on some of the things that the students will be learning. Let's dive into that a little bit more. In terms of the water cycle, what's the focus with the water cycle, and what are you really pushing with that?
Well, so with the water cycle, everyone learns early in elementary school that, water, it evaporates and it goes into the clouds, and then it comes down as precipitation, and then it evaporates and it goes back up, and it's this almost like 3 to 4 step process. But realistically, the water cycle has many, many steps, and water can go any number of places. So after water evaporates and it becomes precipitation, it can end up in a river or a lake and be surface water. It can go from a river or a lake and then end up in the groundwater system. So, or it can be ingested by a human and be part of an animal system, which then eventually that also ends up going back into the water cycle. So it's this very interesting system and cycle where it doesn't just go in a circle. It kind of bounces all over the place. So we sort of work with the students to get them learning how it can go in these few little places. It can go any number of places. And so it's important to keep an eye on all of those different aspects of the water cycle. Why rivers and lakes are important, why glaciers up in the Arctic and things like that, why those are important, because they're all part of the water cycle. Plants and soil, they're all part of the water cycle. So, and the groundwater portion is one of the most interesting ones, because groundwater is a very abstract concept. A lot of the water that we get, that we use on a daily basis throughout the entire state, comes from the ground. It is being pumped out of the ground. Everyone has this misconception that groundwater, like sometimes it's like if you see scientific representations of it, an aquifer where the groundwater is like this big underground cavern. And we stick a straw in it and we suck the water out. But that's not actually how it works. The water itself is between the individual grains of sand and dirt and chunks of rock in those pore spaces. And we remove the water from the pore spaces. So we actually have the students learning about groundwater in our 4th grade Water Festival program by experimenting with groundwater models and small little groundwater models that they manipulate and experiment with themselves. So it really kind of works to, again, we want to get those students aware of how water actually works, so that when they're adults, they have a better knowledge base so they can make better decisions about how they utilize the water and things along those lines.
You think about these 4th graders today and some of the issues that are already in the news and people are talking about here in the state with water problems in the future.
Yes.
I mean, by the time these 4th graders are adults and in the workforce, I mean, it's going to be them making some of the tough decisions. I mean, they're already making tough decisions, but they're going to be the ones that are really dealing with continue dealing with that issue.
Yes.
Okay, so the water cycle. And then another thing that I don't remember learning as much about in school as the water cycle is watersheds. What's being touched on with watersheds?
So with watersheds, every inch of land on the planet falls within a watershed. So watersheds incorporate a few different things. It's the land areas where the water flows or drains to a low point. So in Arizona, we have great examples of that all over the place because we have mountains everywhere. So your mountains are your high points, and usually that's where the precipitation is. So after, say, snowmelt, that snowmelt becomes runoff and goes downhill and becomes part of our water cycle. So that snowmelt or runoff becomes, it may flow into Oak Creek, which then flows into the Verde River, and that water can be used as surface water for the communities around here, or it can end up in the groundwater system also being utilized by the communities. So watersheds are really interesting. It is an area that stores water, so the shed part is interesting. So yeah, it's every part of the planet that has land is within a watershed.
Okay, and you talk about that could end up into groundwater. Okay, what's groundwater?
So groundwater is the water that is fairly deep beneath the surface. It's not going to be the water that's right at the top mixed within the soil, where if you just dig a little hole, you're going to have, water there. That's the soil. Groundwater is much, much deeper. And that's where the water is stored between the grains of sand and the chunks of rock in the pore spaces. And we rely on groundwater for the majority of the state. There are communities all over the place, even very urban communities like the Phoenix area. A lot of what we use is groundwater. And so in more rural communities where you may not be close to the Verde River or Oak Creek, you're going to rely on groundwater. So we need to be able to access that water to pump it out and use it for our daily activities. So it can be, in your home, or it can be for farming and agriculture, or even industry.
Okay, and then the last one, which is one of the more important ones, water conservation. I mean, we've already seen some of the issues with that. I know Jerome, a couple months ago, went into just some water restrictions on just limiting how much water you're using and what you're using it for. And California, of course, are always constantly worried about water conservation. So what's the focus with water conservation?
With water conservation, we want the students that we work with to realize that yes, they do have immediate access to water. You turn on a faucet and water is there. But there are ways that we can reduce the amount of water that we're using through behavioral changes like taking a shorter shower, turning off the water when you brush your teeth, which thankfully every child in America knows. Turn off the water while you brush your teeth. But the interesting thing about that is we teach the fourth graders that, and they go home and they go, my mom and dad, they don't turn the water off when they brush their teeth. And it gives those children an opportunity to share what they're learning about water conservation with their families. So you can make those little behavioral changes to reduce the amount of water. You can also do things like use technology. And technology doesn't have to be a computer or your iPhone or, your TV. Technology is anything that you can use to make your life easier. So your mug for your coffee, that's a piece of technology because it's making it easier for you to consume your coffee. So we can use technology like a water hose nozzle that you squeeze the handle and the water comes out. But when you don't squeeze it, the water's not being wasted. So little things like that that we use in our everyday lives are also pieces of technology that we can use to conserve and save water.
So fourth graders learning about water conservation, hopefully, learning it that young, it becomes habit. And then they can go and teach stuff to their parents, and then all the family is conserving water, right? That's kind of the idea there. So we're going to take our second break. When we come back from break, we'll talk about some of the groups helping just make this water festival possible, some of the sponsors and volunteers that are helping out. More information, arizonawet.arizona.edu, talking about the Verde Valley Water Festival on September 29th, countywide, back in a couple minutes.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
They said I couldn't dream. Called me a piece of trash and swore that's all I'd ever be. Said a bottle couldn't see the ocean. Give up. Go back to the dumpster. But I didn't listen. I made my way. what I've always wanted to be.
Well, Thomas, you've got prediabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon, too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have prediabetes. Big time.
Welcome back to Countywide. I'm Kyle Benedict, sitting down with the community coordinator for Arizona Project WET, Tara Oakes. Their 9th annual Verde Valley Water Festival taking place September 29th at Dead Horse Ranch State Park. 4th graders will be participating in that along with their teachers. We touched on some of the focuses in terms of what they're going to be learning here, and it's much more complex than just a water cycle or a watershed or groundwater and water conservation. Just instilling all these ideas in these kids when they're 4th graders. Hopefully that stays with them throughout their lives. So in terms of the Water Festival and helping put it on, you mentioned there's a lot of groups that are helping make this possible. Who are some of those people?
Well, so the Yavapai County District 3 office right here in Cottonwood has really spearheaded the entire community program for many, many years. And there are groups from all over the Verde Valley that are participating, from Friends of the Verde River to the Prescott National Forest, City of Cottonwood. Embry-Riddle is going to supply some volunteers and things like that. We also are working with Mingus Union High School, and some of those students will be in attendance at the Water Festival itself, helping to facilitate some of the lessons for the students. So those high school students will be teaching our 4th grade students. So it's a really great way to get the community in general involved from different people that maybe the students haven't ever encountered before. So if a student is working with someone from the National Resource Conservation District, they have an opportunity to make a connection with someone who has a career doing something in environmental conservation and things like that. So it's also a nice way to get the students learning from members of their community that maybe have jobs and things that they haven't necessarily thought about.
And now, how is this funded?
So Arizona Project WET and all of our programs are completely grant funded. So we rely on grants. We also rely on donations from the community, and the Verde Valley area has really stepped up. We've got donations from the City of Cottonwood, Freeport-McMoran, the mining company, Felix Construction, even Acme Pizzeria here in Cottonwood is donating food and things for the Water Festival itself. So it really is a community program, and without the support of all the communities that we work in, we wouldn't really be able to do this, give this opportunity to the students and the teachers.
Yeah, I mean, just to mention how important this is, and in the future, it's only going to become more important. So again, this is taking place September 29th, the 9th annual Verde Valley Water Festival at Dead Horse Ranch State Park. Again, their website, a ton of great information, whether you're going to be attending the festival or just for your own personal knowledge, arizonawet.arizona.edu. Again, the Water Festival is within the Arizona Project WET. So Tara Oakes, their community coordinator, I want to thank you for making the trip up from Phoenix. And 9th Annual Verde Valley Water Festival. It'll be a success, I'm sure. So thank you for coming in.
2 weeks from today.
2 weeks.
Or 3 weeks from today.
It's right around the corner, right? Okay, again, that's September 29th. For more information, arizonawet.arizona.edu. This is Countywide. We'll see you in a couple, or we'll see you next time.